Part 1. The woman of his dreams. Michael Turner was 38 years old when his world started to crumble. But before the collapse, there had been the dream. It was 1999. Michael was 22. Freshly graduated from college with a degree in business management, and already landing a job at one of Chicago's most promising tech companies. He was ambitious, determined, and, as his friends would say, hopelessly romantic. One summer evening, at a friend's engagement party, he saw her, Clara Evans. She wasn't just beautiful, she was the kind of woman who seemed to pull the air out of the room. Long chestnut hair, emerald eyes, and a voice that made you want to lean in just to hear her better. She laughed with an elegance that made Michael forget whatever drink he was holding. He didn't remember walking over to her, only that one moment they were strangers, and the next they were talking like they had known each other for years. She told him she was an art teacher at a local high school. She loved old jazz records, hated the taste of coffee, and dreamed of seeing Italy in the spring. Michael was hooked. Not just attracted, obsessed. Over the next year, he courted her relentlessly. Expensive dinners, weekend getaways, spontaneous bouquets of her favorite lilies. Clara seemed to enjoy attention, though she always kept a small, mysterious distance, as if part of her life was kept in a locked drawer Michael wasn't allowed to open. Still, in 2001, he proposed. She said yes. Their wedding was a small, picturesque ceremony by Lake Michigan. Michael had never been happier. He earned well, and he wanted Clara to have the life she deserved. A life where she never had to think about bills or worries. But there was one thing missing. They couldn't have children. For 5 years they tried. Doctors, treatments, endless tests. Nothing worked. The strain was there, unspoken, like a shadow in the corner of every room. Michael worried it was his fault. Clara never blamed him. But sometimes, in the quiet, he caught her staring out the window with an expression he couldn't read. Then, in the spring of 2006, something miraculous happened. Clara was pregnant. Michael wept when he heard the news. Their son, Daniel, was born in early 2007, healthy, perfect, with his mother's green eyes. A year later, against all odds, Clara was pregnant again. Their daughter, Lily, was born in 2008. Michael thought life had finally given him everything. But he had no idea the real story of his family was only beginning, and it would destroy him. Part 2. Small cracks in a perfect life. For years Michael believed he had it all: a loving wife, 2 healthy children, a successful career. People envied him. He was the man who had everything. But looking back, he would remember small moments that didn't make sense. Daniel, their firstborn, was a quiet boy, shy, reserved, never quite looking Michael in the eye when he spoke. Lily, on the other hand, was full of energy, loud and stubborn, more like Michael in personality. Yet there was something in both of them that felt distant. Michael brushed it off. Kids were kids. They changed, they had phases. Still, there were questions. Neither of the children looked much like him. Daniel had dark hair and pale skin, like Clara, fine, that was normal. But Lily had a certain shape to her face, a slight cleft in her chin. Something Michael didn't recognize in either family. One afternoon in 2014, Michael came home early from work. He walked into the living room and saw Clara on the phone. She didn't notice him at first. Her voice was low, almost a whisper. "You promised," she said. "You said no one would ever find out." Michael froze. When she finally saw him, she smiled too quickly, and ended the call. "Who was that?" he asked. "Oh, just a parent from school," she replied, not meeting his eyes. "Some issue with the art fair." Michael wanted to believe her. He did. But something about her tone, and the way she avoided his gaze, lingered in his mind. For weeks. Then there was the money. Despite earning more than enough, Michael noticed Clara's personal bank account always seemed empty. When he asked about it, she would laugh it off. "You know how I love shopping," she'd say. But Michael started finding receipts for things that weren't for her or the kids, men's clothing, expensive whiskey, high-end watches. When he confronted her, Clara shrugged. They were gifts for my brother. Michael didn't even know she had a brother. The cracks were forming. He just didn't know yet that behind them was a void, and once he saw it, there would be no going back. Part 3. The Stranger in the Shadows. It began with a face in a crowd. One Saturday afternoon in 2015, Michael was taking Lily to her soccer game. As they walked from the parking lot toward the field, he noticed a man leaning against a black sedan, watching the players warm up. Tall, broad-shouldered, late 40s, his hair was dark, streaked with gray. He wore a leather jacket despite the warm weather. And there was something about the way his eyes followed Lily that made Michael's stomach twist. When Michael looked again, the man turned and walked away. That night, Michael told Clara about it. She froze mid-bite, then forced a laugh. "You're being paranoid," she said. Maybe he was just another parent. But the next week, Michael saw him again, across the street from Lily's school. Same jacket, same watchful gaze. This time, Michael approached. "Can I help you?" he asked. The man smiled, slow, knowing. "No, but you might want to start asking the right questions." Then he walked off, leaving Michael standing in the cold air, his pulse hammering. That evening, Michael tried to bring it up again. Clara snapped. "I'm tired of you acting like some detective," she said sharply. "You're scaring the kids." Her anger felt too strong, too defensive. Over the next month, Michael started noticing more oddities. Clara disappearing for hours with no explanation. A set of keys she kept hidden in her purse. Receipts from hotels she had no reason to visit. One night, when Clara was asleep, Michael checked her phone. Most messages had been deleted, but one remained. From an unsaved number. "We need to talk." He's starting to suspect. Michael didn't sleep that night. He lay awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying every strange moment of the past few years. And slowly, a terrifying thought began to take shape. One he couldn't bring himself to say out loud. Michael didn't want to believe it. For weeks, he tried to convince himself that the man in the leather jacket was nothing more than a stranger with bad timing. That the messages, the hotel receipts, the strange absences, they all had some harmless explanation. But the doubt was there, whispering at him in the quiet hours. One evening, while Clara was out meeting a friend, Michael sat at the kitchen table with his laptop. He searched for at-home paternity tests. The idea felt insane, insulting even. But once it lodged in his mind, it wouldn't leave. 2 days later, a discreet package arrived. He hid it in his office. That weekend, while Clara took Lily to a birthday party, Michael told Daniel he needed to check something for school and swabbed the inside of his cheek. He did the same with Lily's toothbrush when no one was looking. He mailed the samples and waited. The waiting was the worst. Every time Clara smiled at him, every time the kids had him, he felt a sick twist in his gut. 10 days later, the results arrived in an email. He opened it. Daniel 0% probability of paternity. Lily to 0% probability of paternity. Michael stared at the screen until the letters blurred. Both children. Neither of them his. That night, he confronted Clara. She was in the living room, reading. "I know," he said, his voice shaking. She looked up, her expression unreadable. "No, what? They're not mine." For a moment, there was no reaction. Then she put the book down slowly, almost carefully. "You shouldn't have done that," she said. Her voice was calm to calm. No apologies, no denial, just a quiet, chilling certainty. Michael felt his skin crawl. "How long?" he demanded. "Since before Daniel," she replied. "And if you were smart, you'd stop asking questions." It wasn't guilt he saw in her eyes. It was something darker, something dangerous. That was the moment Michael realized the woman he'd loved for over a decade wasn't the woman he thought she was. And he had no idea how far she would go to protect her secret. The days after the confrontation were a blur. Clara moved through the house as if nothing had happened, cooking dinner, packing the kids' lunches, laughing with them at the table, but with Michael. Her words were cold and clipped. Then the real trouble began. 2 weeks later, Michael's boss called him into the office. There had been a complaint, serious accusations about inappropriate behavior toward a female employee. Michael was stunned. None of it was true, but the HR department said they had to investigate. That night, Clara came into his study. She closed the door and leaned against it, arms crossed. "You're going to resign," she said. Michael laughed bitterly. "Over a lie? Absolutely not." Her expression didn't change. "If you don't, I'll make sure you lose more than your job. Think about custody hearings. Think about what the kids will say when they hear certain stories." It hit him like a punch. "You'd use them against me." She stepped closer. "They're not your children, Michael. Legally, yes, but blood, no. You have no claim. And if you push me, you'll never see them again." Over the next week, his life unraveled. Anonymous emails went out to business contacts, spreading rumors about theft and fraud. His bank account showed withdrawals he hadn't made. One morning, two police officers showed up at his door with a search warrant. Someone had tipped them off about illegal materials on his computer. They found nothing, but the damage was done. Neighbors stared. Friends stopped calling. Michael tried to confront Clara again, but she always smiled that same cold smile. "You brought this on yourself," she'd say. "You should have left it alone." At night he began hearing noises outside, footsteps on the driveway, a car idling across the street, and more than once he thought he saw the man in the leather jacket watching from the shadows. Michael realized he was being cornered. His marriage was over, his reputation destroyed, and someone, maybe Clara, maybe the man, maybe both, was setting him up for something much, much worse. It happened on a rainy Thursday night. Michael was in his study staring at job listings he had no hope of getting when he heard voices outside, not on the street, right outside his window. He crept to the curtains and pulled them back a fraction. There she was, Clara, standing under an umbrella with the man in the leather jacket. They were close. Too close. She touched his arm like she'd done it 1,000 times. The man handed her an envelope, thick with papers. She glanced around, then tucked it into her coat. Michael's heart pounded. He grabbed his phone and began recording through the glass. The man leaned in, speaking low, but Michael caught some of it. "Once the accounts are drained, he's finished. You'll have the house, the kids, everything. He'll have nothing." Clara smiled. That was the plan from the beginning. Michael's hand shook so badly the phone almost slipped. From the beginning, it all fell into place. The pregnancies, the years of manipulation, the way she'd isolated him from friends and family. He wasn't losing his life by accident. She'd been dismantling it piece by piece for over a decade. The next morning, Michael went to a lawyer. He showed the video. The man frowned. "This is good, but not enough. She'll claim you're paranoid, maybe even dangerous. You need proof that ties her to fraud or a crime." Michael knew what that meant. He'd have to dig deeper, get closer. That night, he followed Clara. She drove to the edge of town, to a storage facility. Inside, she opened a unit and began pulling out boxes. Michael, hiding behind the door, took photos of everything: documents, fake IDs, stacks of cash. But then he made a mistake. His phone buzzed loud in the concrete silence. Clara froze. Then she turned, eyes locking on his. For a long moment, they just stared at each other. Then she smiled. That same, cold smile. "You should have listened, Michael," she said softly. "Now it's too late." He ran. By the time he reached home, police cars were waiting. 2 officers stepped forward. Michael Turner, one, asked, "You're under arrest." The charges: possession of stolen property, the very boxes he'd just photographed. As they led him away, Michael looked back at his house. Clara stood in the doorway, the man in the leather jacket behind her, both of them watching with quiet satisfaction. Michael realized he had just lost the last move in a game he never knew he was playing.